That's right. So here we are. We are going live. I see the clock ticking and the little red thing that says live up in the upper corner. And now there's an eyeball icon. So when people join, I'll acknowledge you. Although in StreamYard, it's hard to really see. You can see eyeballs and you know somebody's watching, but you don't know who. You go back and forth from banners and comments. And anyway, this is my second year using StreamYard technology. And it's the 5th year of reading a tip from the Get a Klu in 52 series. This year, it's Get a Klu in 52 for speakers. And I want to welcome right away Sue, my co-author. There you are, Sue. And also the author of the back cover copy for the book, Patty Blakesley, the inner business coach. But what I want to say right off the bat, and before I hand it over to Sue to introduce this year's version, is that last year we did Get a Klu in 52 for coaches. So that last year I was vice president of communication for the Professional Coaches Alliance and volunteering, really promoting the coaching vertical. This year, the speaking vertical. But prior to Get a Klu in 52 for coaches, we did Get a Klu in 52 for entrepreneurs with my co-author, Vipul Dayal, serial go-giver that Vipul is. So 52 tips out of that. And then I spent 2 years actually getting the rhythm of all of it. This is the same book, but I made all of the mistakes in this one, then cleaned them up in this one. I streamed these tips into the Facebook group and then read from the cleaned up version into YouTube. And so we populated 2 social media channels, but that's why I adopted StreamYard as my technology, because I can stream into more than one channel now, which we started doing last year. And this year, it brings us to the year of the speaker. So I'm back on campus teaching a couple of classes at my alma mater, San Diego State University. I had public speaking courses last semester, and I'm teaching another 66 students this semester how to get past the fear of public speaking and the basics. So I thought in collaboration with Sue, and we had choices, didn't we, Sue? We talked about a bunch of things that we could possibly co-author projects on, and you went with the speaker thing, which I'm grateful for that you chose that, because there's so much synergy in it for me. I'm a member of the International Speakers Network. I'm teaching public speaking courses. I do speak to generate leads and market myself, and keynotes and facilitations and workshops and all of that stuff. So I'm really pleased that you made this choice to focus on speakers, and I'll hand it off to you to introduce Get a Klu in 52 for 52, Get a Klu in 52 for speakers with co-author Sue Mathieson. Sue, take it away.
Thanks, Jeff. And it was when we talked about what emphasis do we have from a topic perspective, speaking was one that really resonated with me, and that whole project towards the end of last year was a lot of fun. It was fabulous. And more specifically, within 52 tips for speakers, we cover 5 sections. Mm-hmm. First up, it's playing the integrity game, and that's what we're in at the moment. Secondly, we go into bring out your brand, and we've got 10 tips that come into that section. And then we look at speech writing and how to be your fearless self. And again, we have 10 tips. But there's one tip within that we felt really deserved more attention. And we look at the elements, form, and functions that come into really building out a fabulous speech. And we cover all of that in section 4. And lastly, we've got 12 tips where we talk about building a practice as a speaker. And what's really fabulous about many of tips within this book is that the section we're in now, playing the integrity game, is relevant for speakers and non-speakers.
That's right.
And it's really great to be able to say, it doesn't matter who you are, you will find benefit from what we're talking about, particularly at the moment. So we started off, week 1 was talking about purpose and declaring our purpose as a speaker. Why is it that we want to speak? What is it that we want to achieve? And we particularly focused on the difference between autobiographical and biographical.
That's right.
And what does that mean? Say for me, as autobiographic, that's where we talk about building my brand. I want to speak because I want to get paid. I want to get the pictures from me being up on stage behind a lectern, and I want to be able to sell my programs.
Yeah.
But against that, from a purpose perspective is also looking at biographic. What does the audience get out of what I bring to the platform or online even? There's no difference whether we're face-to-face or online.
Mm-hmm.
Then from purpose, we talked about packaging up our gifts and how the two integrate. What I really learned, and as we go through these tips, you will see the dialogue, and that's what we really wanted to capture in this book, was the dialogue between Jeff as mentor and coach and me as mentee. And exactly, we've got our two on the front cover, and it's very indicative of that relationship that we have. And as we were going through the tip, I capture or ask questions, and then with Jeff's guidance, help to answer some of those questions. And that was where we looked at packaging gifts. And I came to the understanding that it's the gift of my message, it's the power of words, but it's also what sets me apart as a speaker.
Yeah.
From the next person. And from there, we moved into tip 3, which was the chronology.
Yeah, it's fun to say, isn't it? I say chronology.
Yeah.
Let's just all just say, Patty, can you join us? Let's just all say it together. The chronology
of potential. And there were three elements there, which were vision, mission, and objectives. And they're time related. Vision being how far out can you see? And for me, that might be seeing myself as a global speaker, influential, inspiring change, and seeing change in organizations, both the organization in its totality, but also individually. And then mission is, what's the evidence that shows that I'm on my way to that vision?
Mm-hmm.
As example, it might be that 1,000 organizations are actively engaging and being changed. And then the objectives are more related to 12 months out. What's, again, the evidence that shows that I'm on my way to achieving my mission and my vision?
Yeah, and just to elaborate on chronology right there, we're going farthest out we possibly could see. What do we see? Then the mission is still quite a ways away, but it proves we're on our way to that vision. And then objectives, annual. And that got us into last week, right, with goal setting, yeah, Sue?
Yeah, that's right. And so with goal setting, we talk about SMART goals, but slightly different is the way that Jeff's put it together to what you might be used to. And SMART, as in SMAART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, ambitious. The R being the reason or reward for having your goal, and T, of course, being time bound. And as we came to the end of reading that tip, what I, in the commentary, noticed that as I implement goal setting, that's going to require a change in behavior. And as I do that, I'm not only going to see a movement toward my vision as a speaker, but I'm also more likely going to improve the quality of my speaking. And from there, then, as I was understanding what I could do to more effectively integrate speaking skill and speaking outcomes into my goal setting, we're moving to tip 5, strategies, tactics, and resources, and now reading word for word.
Hang on real quick. Before we get into the word for word, I just want to communicate out there. I see a couple of eyeballs. If you want to join the conversation and jump on in with us, I saw one of the comments. Thank you, Vuong, for putting it up there. But here's the link, tinyurl.com/cluetip5. So Sue and I are about to read word for word our dialogue and read today's tip, this week's tip. And that'll give you time to log on if you want to get into this conversation. Sue, thank you for that overview. We're playing the integrity game in the first 10 tips. Purpose. What is our purpose for being a speaker? Our purpose, and then our purpose in affecting the audience. What are the the gifts that we bring, competitive advantages, why people would choose us instead of any other speaker, but also what are the gifts that we're giving from the platform to the audience. And then we get into the chronology of potential. Then we break it down to goal setting, which is less than a year. And once we've chosen our goals as a speaker, now we're ready to select strategies, tactics, and resources. Let me welcome Vong. Nice to see you here. Thanks for jumping in. I'm glad you got the link, and thank you for posting that. Now, Sue, back to you. Thank you. And let's get into today's tip. Tip number 5, strategies, tactics, and resources. Take it away.
So reading word for word, even though I'm feeling more confident with setting goals as a speaker, I'm not quite sure what to do to bring them to fruition. What do you recommend?
All right. At least you asked in what form. That is good because a what question focuses our mind on a specific action to take. Quote, what to do. Good. I say that because most people, including many I have coached out of it, suffer from halitosis, where they are so far away from really being ready to take action that they ask in how form. How do I X? How do I Y? Yeah, but how do I Z? My favorite is when the how is preceded by a yeah, but. That shows me a person is so far removed from a readiness to take action that they must negate with, quote, yeah, but the solutions you are trying to present. I call it halitosis, the very bad breath we smell when everything someone is saying proves they're more committed to believing there is no how than to acknowledge and commit to any how. A classic battle between know-how and know-how. They are both choices. So the 5th point in the integrity game model, and therefore the 5th tip I have for you, Sue, and for speakers, is to acknowledge that strategies, the plan, tactics, the how, and resources, the tools, do in fact exist for any and every goal anyone could want to achieve. The integrity game goes further to teach us that there are in fact multiple strategies for achieving anything. Some strategies are easy for introverts. Some strategies are easy for extroverts. Some strategies involve research. Others involve networking. Some require a telephone. Others only a stable internet connection, etc. Tony Robbins says, quote, success leaves clues. And never mind that he spells it wrong. The point is that there is always a plethora of strategies. There's always a plethora of strategies. So the challenge here isn't that there is no how or what to do. The real challenge is that there are so many options. We need help identifying and selecting strategies, tactics, and resources. For example, I have a proven 8-step strategy for being able to speak fearlessly and conversationally, persuasively and memorably. 8 steps, proven. That's the strategy. The strategy is to prepare so well that you are fearless. And the tactics are the details of all 8 steps. The resources are templates, recordings, examples, coaching, consulting, role plays, video evaluation, etc. that I can provide anyone setting out on the 8-step journey. So the 8-step strategy, the 8-step strategy, don't say that 5 times fast, by the way, and don't even say it 8 times fast. The 8-step strategy is for preparing to speak. Like once you have a speaking gig, our colleague now I get to say, Sue, our colleague, Lisa Reed, CEO of International Speakers Network and CEO of Getting Speaking Gigs Now, has an entire business built around strategies for getting speaking engagements. Still, there are even more strategies for what next after speaking engagements. And I have strategies for building a speaking ability into building a speaking practice. Let me stop on the word for word real quick and basically saying there's strategies for everything. There's strategies for preparing to speak. There's strategies for getting speaking gigs. There's strategies for what to do after the gig. Right? And I'll finish back up word for word. And I even have strategies for building a speaking ability into a speaking practice. The last 12 tips we'll cover in this book, right, Sue? Back to word for word. What is important here while playing the integrity game is to accept, believe, know, and never question that there is, in fact, plenty of how. And before you get to the what, you need to be clear on what strategy you have chosen, what strategy integrates with your answers to the first 4 question sets in the integrity game. What is your purpose? What are your gifts? What is your potential? What are your goals? With answers to those 4 questions, you will have an easier time choosing and committing to a strategy, breaking it down into next observable actions that will help you make appointments with yourself that you need to make to execute your strategy.
And for me, this really does take work. What can I do so I don't feel quite so overwhelmed?
That is a common question and also commonly part of the problem if we validate or give any focus to overwhelm. Confused? Don't be. The next tip explains everything you need to know. And let me just disclaimer here. I got to tell, I don't know if the next tip's going to explain everything you need to know, but that's what we wrote here. So it's just like kind of like transition dialogue. But in version 2.0, if we redo this and find any of our mistakes that we've made, I might redo that one sentence. The next tip doesn't teach you everything that you need to know, but it moves us along in our playing of the integrity game. And just as a preview, it's calibrating words and commitments. So it's an important piece of the integrity game. It won't tell us, it won't teach you everything you need to know, but in reference to something that we said earlier on in this tip, right? I have a proven 8-step strategy. I'd feel more comfortable saying that will teach you everything you need to know, those 8 steps. But that's section 3 of our book. We're not going to get there for a couple months from now. We're going to be in like the summer before we get to that section. There's a little bit of feedback there, Vong, on your side, I think. I'm going to go ahead and mute you until you, if you have a headset, that'll probably help. But when you want to speak or engage, which is coming up any minute now, be ready to unmute yourself, and that'll be great. When you don't have a headset, it comes through the speaker, the sound comes through the computer, but then it also goes through your microphone. So it's a loop, right? That's why I love headsets, even if it's a little clunky, like, oh, but the wire's dangling in front of you. I don't care. I'd rather have good, direct sound. I'll take that trade-off. But anyway, there we go. So let's open it up now for conversation. We're talking about strategies, tactics, and resources. Remember that each of these tips really do connect with the other. So we start by answering questions of purpose. Then we have to answer questions of gifts and differentiation and competitive advantage. Then we have to declare our vision, our mission, and our objectives. Then we break that down into quarterly goals. Once we have answers to those 4 questions, we won't ask how anymore. The how will show up, it'll arrive, it'll be obvious to it. Or even if it's not right in front of our face after answering those 4 questions, it'll be easy to go seek the strategies that we need. And guess what? You don't have to look far, because I got an 8-step proven strategy. So you don't have to wait till the summertime when we read the tip. Go ahead and get your copy on Amazon.com and read ahead and be ready for when we do the live stream. But having introduced and summarized today's tip, strategies is the plan. Tactics are the observable actions to execute the plan. And then resources are things that make it easier to take those steps, easier to execute the plan, easier to engage in those tactics. So strategies, tactics, and resources. A lot of us, myself included, we get overwhelmed, and we don't want to give life to overwhelm. So I won't say overwhelmed, I'll say I'm whelmed. Right? So I'm whelmed. What does that mean, right? Well, I'm not debilitated. I'm not paralyzed. I'm not going to die. The boogeyman's not going to come and get me. I just got a lot in my mind. I got papers to grade, classes to teach, clients to fulfill. I've got marketing to do. I've got proposals to write. I've got, kids we got a lot, right? And so I'm not alone in there. Even I'm teaching this stuff and I still need my own tips. So strategies, tactics, resources, it just gives me partitions, just helps me organize my thoughts, helps me access. It turns noise into beautiful sound. It helps me work with things, these partitions in my brain, when we can break things down, the chronology of potential. And then once we get down to goals, now it's easier to pick the strategy, the steps, and then I know what resources I need to go ahead and get on the road. So Vong, welcome. Patty, welcome. Sue, what else do you guys have to contribute to this conversation?
Well, before I make a comment, I'd like to hear from both Patty and Vong.
Yeah. Well, I think just like anything, it comes down to action, I would say, because what I'm hearing is like, yeah, we do get overwhelmed, which translates to overthinking instead of just try it. and it's okay to give it a shot, and maybe you get nervous or scared, but I think the more we practice anything, the more confident we build, and then it becomes from confident to competent, So
yeah, That's insightful, and it's a little bit of foreshadowing because the 7th week, 2 weeks from now, it's all about taking action. It's all about building the muscle memory for taking action. But a lot of people are afraid of making mistakes, which is a misunderstanding of mistakes, right? There's no such thing. If you say, well, I'm going to test it, instead of, oh, I might make a mistake, it changes everything. So we're going to get into the psychology of taking action, what prevents people from taking action. We'll have our tip, of course, but you're right. And right on point, Vong. That was excellent. It comes down to your willingness to take action, to get out of your head. But that I was saying, and it follows from what I was saying, I believe, that if we have our thoughts organized, if I can look up into my head and see categorical, oh, this thought goes here and this thought goes here. Oh, no, this is a strategy. That's a step to oh, I need this resource. It just makes it easier for me to take action once I have my thoughts organized. Right. Excellent contribution there, Patty. What you got? You always have something, Patty. I can't wait.
Well, when I think about overwhelm, I think people get overwhelmed because they don't know what to do, which comes up to the resources of this section. If you have a strategy and you're going to build your brand through speaking, then it becomes, what are your resources? Who do you reach out to? What do you read, etc.? And it's the same as action in a way. It's just being confident that you know what to do next takes you out of overwhelm. Takes me out of overwhelm, I'll say.
Yeah. You guys have given me an idea. Sue, let's kick it over to you. What do you've got to add here as I create a banner? I'm going to offer everybody an isolated freebie in a minute, but let's hear what you have to say.
Sure. Well, coming back to your comment about reminding readers and listeners that these tips that we're working through at the moment are linked or integrated, and we're taking the focus of speaker because we're tips for speaker, and really, as that integration is, you've got speaker sitting at the top as the noun, and you're taking that speaking through the filter of the tips that we're talking about. But it equally applies. You can put any noun at the top there and take it through that filter. And certainly through my experience of applying that in my own life in the area of speaking or any other area, it has given me so much more confidence in making decisions. What do I say yes to? What do I say no to? Thinking about, as we're talking about today, strategies, tactics, and resources, it answers those questions more succinctly because I've got that purpose. I've got that. What are my gifts that I'm bringing to it? What's my potential? Because I've already got some of that at least in mind, it makes it so much easier to ask better questions about what comes next.
Yeah, and you've tempted me now, Sue. Like as soon as you talked about you could put any noun at top, I'm dying for the visual. Not dying, I'm living for the visual, right? So like when we talk about the section that we're in, we know that today's tip 5. We know that the section that we're in is playing the integrity game. So here we go. Humor me. Let's see how this will work. And can you see my screen? Can you guys see my screen?
It's coming.
Yep.
All right. So let's play. So what Sue was just talking about is when the laces, right? And the whole concept of the integrity game is where structural integrity, right? Whether you're in this, back to you were stringing the pearls here with your comments. These first tips, they're definitely for speakers. If any speaker comes to me, Jeff, I want to be a speaker. I want to be a better speaker. I want to advance my career through public speaking. What do you recommend? First of all, have you played the integrity game? Have you established a solid, concrete foundation for this journey? And that's what we're talking about here in these 10 tips. So that goes for speakers and non-speakers alike, like you said at the beginning of the session, Sue. Absolutely. Then what did you just say? You said, well, I could put any noun right here. Can you guys all see that? Any noun right here, because it kind of ends up, I didn't intend this originally, but it ended up being that these laces right here, they end up creating like a funnel effect, right? But metaphorically, we know that the laces are not tying the shoe. We tie the laces. What the laces are doing is integrating. the left side with the right side, bringing the left side closer to the right side. Why? To give the shoe a structural integrity that allows the shoe to do what it was made to do what it's supposed to do, to reach its potential. The shoe is not going to reach its potential if it's untied or loosely tied, not tied at all, right? It'll fall off. You could sprain your ankle. You can cut your foot. These are just metaphors, right? But it applies to any endeavor in life. And for speakers, we want to know, what is your purpose? What's the meaning of speaking for you? What's the purpose? What's the meaning of your life? What's your purpose in life? Why are you on this planet? And so then why do you want to be a speaker? How does being a speaker integrate, come together, and give structural integrity to that desire? And we talked about gifts in tip number 2, and potential in tip number 3, and goals in tip number 4. And now here we are in strategies, tactics, resources. And yeah, of course, we are going to move on and start to fill in the rest of these blanks as we progress through all 10 tips in the section. But I wanted to create this visual for you that Sue was talking about. Anything, any noun. I could put my marriage right up here. What's the purpose of my marriage? What are its gifts? What's its potential? What are our goals this year, this quarter, right? I could put the meeting. I could put the project. I could put the investment. I could put the partnership. I could put the volunteerism. I could put the networking group. I could put the membership. And just as long as I answer, this is what you're saying, Sue, yeah?
Yeah,
As
correct.
for any noun, if I have answers to these questions, then any decision I want to make about it is easier to make. It's easier to access. It's cleaner and it's more efficient, and it's done with more confidence and more stability. And you feel like you're on stable ground, pushing off to take those actions after making those decisions, rather on murky ground, or trying to build a mansion on quicksand, or, trying to, I don't know, like, another metaphor that comes to mind is like when you turn on the hose at the wall in the backyard, and then you follow it all the way to where the water's coming out, and it's going like this all over the place. But hang on to that thing and give it some integrity, give it some structure. And then now, instead of water spraying everywhere with nothing growing, we can direct an efficient amount of water to the places that we definitely want growing. So that's one visual. Now, the other visual that I'm going to bring up while I'm here is, this is the freebie. So these 8 steps to fearless public speaking, I wrote this book a while ago, and I'm just going to show it to you guys. This big table of contents. It ends up being like 37 pages. And these are the tips. These 8 steps are what I was referring to earlier in tip 5 here. So for those of you that don't want to wait all the way until the summer when we read these tips one week at a time, if you want to go ahead and send and by the way, you can see there's outlining and templates, and we're really taking you through it and having you visualize what these steps are and preparing for a speech and all of that good stuff. So that's a quick visual that I'm going to offer. It's an isolated PDF of 8 steps to fearless public speaking. You can substitute the word fearless with conversational. Okay, because I'm a big fan of being yourself up there, not reading word for word from your note cards, and no death by PowerPoint, and no memorization. God forbid you forget, and then it all falls apart from there, right? So we want to be fearless and conversational. We want to be measured, and we want to be well prepared, but we want to be ourselves, because the audience can see through it if we're not. So if you don't want to wait till the summertime, when we get to it in our chronology of reading 1 tip every week, and by the way, when we get to the subject on being fearless, it's after we finish 5 more tips in the integrity game. So that's 5 weeks, then 10 tips in bring out your brand, right? So you got the solid foundation that you bring out your brand, and that rests on, then you're ready to prepare your speeches. If you know who you are and what's going on for you in this world, you know what your brand is, and now you're ready to write speeches with those answers. Okay. So if you don't want to wait 15 weeks, and by the way, when we get into the section on being fearless, the first 2 tips in that section are like prep tips that get us ready for the 8 steps. So we're talking about 17 weeks, 4 months. Whoa, it's February already. I know it's going to go fast, but it seems like a lot. So if you don't want to wait that long, I don't want you to wait that long either. So what you can do is to get a free copy PDF, the one that I was just showing you, just put in the subject line, be fearless, and send that email to info@getaklu.net. Put the subject line, be fearless, and we will get that PDF out to you right away, even though the PDF is repurposed and embedded and positioned for our dialogue, right? I've been around the world, dozens of times, getting speakers ready for big stages. And not once did we ever ignore the 8 steps. The 8 steps are in every speaking engagement, speakers training, speakers mentoring. Nobody, nobody gets through Klubeck without getting exposed to these 8 steps if speaking is what we're talking about. So there you have it. What else, you guys? What other comments and questions might you have for tip number 5? Let me bring that banner back up. We are in tip number 5, which is strategies, tactics, and resources. And I referred to 8 steps to fearless and conversational public speaking. But guess what? It's also strategic and tactical to play the integrity game, right? The strategy is to shore up, to what's your strategy? Well, I want to retrofit myself. Wow, that sounds cool. How do you do that? Well, I answered 10 questions. I put a noun up the top and I answered 10 questions relative to that noun. And next thing I know, I'm more resilient. I'm more focused. I'm more dedicated. I make better decisions about what comes in, what I repel and what I attract, and et cetera, et cetera. So let me stop talking for a minute because you guys have heard enough about me. And let's get back to like Sue or Patty or Vong. Any comments or questions from you guys?
The thing that comes to mind for me is not only does working through this require work, but it makes it more efficient. And so when you have that framework that you can attack whatever it is that you want to consider, you've got steps to work through. It takes away that angst of what do I do next, or how does this fit together? And I think that's, from experience, that's what I really found valuable with the framework is because it's so integrated, it flows, it makes sense, and
logical.
It's very logical, but it becomes very powerful in that logical. So yeah, it's just a really, really fabulous framework to work with, and it works.
It's wonderful to hear that. Wonderful you say that, because like I still feel like it's in diapers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we're giving birth to this thing, right? But we've got enough traction, and I've certainly seen the results. I came up with it, but then I had to take myself through the integrity game and actually answer all 10 question sets for myself. And it's hard to describe in a Zoom here in this context, the manifestation power, the focus power, the resilience power, like what I've attracted, how much more upright I feel in everything I do on a day-to-day basis. I'll say that shout out to a wonderful organization, Provisors. I joined Provisors to do not hard, but heavy. I'm really committed to my professional networking this year. And I joined Provisors, and I've been to a couple meetings this weekend, getting back in the networking game where, you go out, you meet people, and you do the 30-second pitch, and you let people know what's going on. But for all of the years of my career, especially the beginning years, we got to do a ton of networking. You know how many 30-second commercials or 30-second pitches or elevator pitches I did at networking events for Get A Klu? Well, now I'm promoting the integrity game, and it's interesting when I feel a difference, Sue, when I'm introducing myself and people say, "What do you do?" And after I say, well, I wake up every day and I figure out how I'm going to deserve my wife and kids. After I say that, next thing I know, I'm out of bed helping people with retrofits. I'm retrofitting producers, leaders, and organizations. Really, how do you do that? Well, we play the integrity game, and it delivers soft skills and engagement and motivation and accountability. And it's just wonderful to see the birth of this brand, and it's wonderful to integrate the concept of the integrity game into the first section here as a foundational. We don't want to be lost. We want to be found. We put the found back in foundation. We put the fun back in the fundamentals. So here we are. We're coming up on what else? Vong, Patty, Sue, what else do we want to talk about today as we wrap up? Tip number 5, we're playing the integrity game as we've talked about. And tip number 5 specifically is after we've answered high-level questions, we're moving towards, as Vong absolutely accurately pointed out, it's logical, like Sue pointed out. It's logical that we are moving into action taking, but it's going to be easier to take actions with answers to these questions that we've introduced about purpose, gifts, potential, and goals. Vaughn, go ahead.
So part of strategy or tactic, I guess, what's a good time limit where the audience is still engaged versus when they're like, okay, this is too long? On your experiences.
Okay, yeah. My experience is it varies. You're not going to like this answer, but there's different. You have to assume that there's like maybe 4 to 12 different types of people in every audience. 4 to 12 different types. If you want to keep it really simple, you've got, your drivers, your persuaders, you've got your supporters, and you've got your analyticals, right? If you're thinking about a DISC assessment, right? If you want to make it even simpler than that, you got your left brainers and your right brainers. You got your introverts and your extroverts, right? If you want to keep it really simple. So an introvert is actually going to pay attention for a longer amount of time because they're slow to change, they're steady, they're going to focus, they don't want to miss anything, they're neat, they're detailed and exacting, they hear every single word. The extrovert has 17 conversations going on in their own mind while they're listening to you. Does this make sense? And I'm just doing broad brushstrokes here. So like, I know that this isn't a satisfying answer, but I don't want to, there's no 6 seconds. It's not 3. You got 3 seconds before you lose attention. No, in any given second, you may lose or regain anybody's attention. But what I love about your question, which we get to in the 8 steps to fearless public speaking, and certainly when we break down the 5th step into its elements, forms, and functions. So right when we get to this, some of our elements, in whatever form they take, function to keep attention, to grab and keep. Like once I get your attention, I want to keep it. And so I've got a lot of strategies, tactics, and resources on how to keep your attention. And even if I believe I'm doing something to keep your attention, I'm not in control over the growling of your stomach or the notification that went off on your phone or the alarm that you set because you have to quietly duck out early to make a phone call to make sure if your kid's okay. Or there's so many things we're not in control of. Does this make sense? And the first answer to that question is to surrender and just say, you know what? I don't know. Or if I know it all, I can tell you this. It's probably 4 to 12 different time frames that I've got if I have to find one standard amount of time that I have. But I will tell you a couple of other things here, Vong. It's getting smaller. As if I'm in a room full of entrepreneurs who've paid money to attend the event, I've got a lot of wiggle room, right? Because the attention span is lengthened by the skin they have in the game. Okay. As opposed to if I'm at San Diego State University teaching a bunch of college freshmen who were in Tijuana last night.
Yeah.
Who have devices and they can't like breathe or eat or walk a dog without taking their phone with them. Like they're running into furniture and walls because they are texting and walking. You don't drink and drive. How about don't text and walk? Like when on campus at San Diego State, I open up my office door and smack people in the face because they're coming around the corner on their phones and they don't have their head up. Right. So that the attention span is shrinking, especially as we get into different generations, younger generations who grew up. Right. And by the way, are you guys ready for my joke? I get to tell a joke. It's Friday. It's so funny. Somebody made a joke earlier. Anyway, here's the joke. I believe in like evolution. You follow? Like, okay. Which means, here's my phone, which means at some point, I don't know if you can see it, at some point, we're going to grow a third eye out of our forehead so we can still protect ourselves while we're on our damn devices. All right. I digress. Vaughn, thank you for laughing, Sue. Evolution, baby. Hey, we got to protect ourselves. We're on our phone. So at some point, our body is going to realize we're not putting the damn phone down. So how do we defend ourselves in the wild? All right. I digress. What I need to focus on is my content, my delivery, my nonverbal communication. Do I establish eye contact right away? Am I making movement of the stage and moving around? And do I have gestures? Do I have expressions? Am I willing to take chances? Am I willing to say things like, are you with me? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Are you smelling what I'm cooking? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions? Hey, you look like you have a question. Don't be afraid, even if they don't have a question. When I find somebody like Patty, you look like you have a question right now. Patty's like, I don't have a damn question. Doesn't matter. I got Sue and Vong's attention, seeing what's Patty going to do. And Jeff calls. Like you start to, right? When I know exactly what I want to do, I can deviate from it and get back to it super quickly. And so with a mastery of my content, leaning on the confidence that structure, strategies, tactics, and resources give me, right? When all of that stuff, it allows me to I need less percentage of my brain focused on what I want to say, right? And that makes more of my brain available to study my audience while I'm speaking. So I'm actually the audience of my audience while I'm speaking to my audience. Patty? Are you muted?
I'm muted, so I can't laugh.
I'll be right.
Okay. I hope this.
I am the audience of the audience of the audience I'm speaking to. Yeah.
I'm the audience of my audience when I'm speaking to my audience. I want to be so well prepared. I want to have such command of my content. Like if I prepared, here's the analogy I always give you guys is if in the fifth step, not the tip, because this is tip 5 in section 1, but when we get to the 5th step of my 8 steps, right? And let me put that back on the banner here. When I'm offering everybody right now a free PDF of the 8 steps to fearless public speaking, which we're not going to start getting into on a weekly basis for 17 weeks. If you don't want to wait 4 months and a week, then email us at info@getaklu.net and put the subject line "Be Fearless," and we'll make sure that you get the PDF of 8 steps to fearless public speaking. But within those 8 steps, right, we prepare so well. One of the things those 8 steps are designed to do is to prepare us. And when I get to the 5th of those 8 steps is outlining. So at some point I got to write. I got to get the speech or my ideas out of my head and I got to write them so I can see them and organize them and work with them. And so it's in that step. Let's say, for example, here's the metaphor that I always use. Let's say that if I'm writing my outline, which is the 5th of 8 steps, and I'm writing my outline, I'm outlining my speech, I write the word 6. I wrote 6 is what I put in my outline in step 8. Well, once I get to step 6, 7, and 8, and I start practicing my speech, and I've got my note cards, I've got my visuals, I've practiced it out loud, I've gone through the whole thing a couple of times. I don't need to read from anything. I can deliver it beginning to end, and generally speaking, get my main points out. I'm prepared so well that even though in my preparation, I wrote the word 6, when I'm actually on stage, I can say half a dozen, 5 plus 1, 10 minus 4, 60 divided by 10, 3 times 2, 4 plus 2, 8 minus 2, 0 plus 7 minus 1. The number in front of pack when I'm getting ready for a Friday night and want to drink some beers. That's right. 6. So in other words, Vaughn, back to your thing. How long do you have before you lose somebody's attention? That's not the question I want to answer. What I want to answer is how many different ways can I say the same thing so that I get everybody's attention in the right amount of time? Because if I say 6, I might not engage somebody else. But if I say, hey, baker's dozen, cut it in half. Wait, 6.5? Baker's dozen's 13, right? And I'll be wacky just to get somebody's attention. I'll take chances. I'll be jovial. I'll do dad jokes. Whatever it takes, right? And then the other thing too, Vaughn, is the other part of that is rather than putting effort into figuring out an exact amount of time I have before I lose somebody's attention, I'd rather surrender and say, their loss. I'd rather surrender and say, you know what? If I'm speaking to 100 people right now, I do not expect to establish and keep 100 people's attention.
Right.
What I do know is the people that do pay attention are going to get tons of value, and the ones that don't won't. Tough, you know what, for them. Now, if I'm in a classroom, right, then I might say, hey, if somebody's on their phone or falling asleep, I might wake somebody up. I might go and stand next to them and start speaking right next to them, get them up to pay attention, right? And I'll say, hey, listen, I'm not trying to call you out or bother you, offend you, or wake you up out of your slumbers. But I do want you to know that I'm totally cool if you go back to sleep right now in my class. I don't care. As long as you're cool when you don't get the grade that you really want because you're not paying attention right now. So I'm not doing this for me. I get my ego fulfilled by my wife and my kids. I get my ego fulfilled by the clients that pay me thousands of dollars to talk to me. I'm here for you, dude. I'm here for you, dudette. And so I'm not asking you to pay attention because of any autobiographical reasons. I just know that if you miss what I'm saying right now, you're not going to, it's going to show up in your work, and then you're not going to get the A. You might not get the B. Right. And so, hey, I don't judge you. If you don't want an A, if you don't want a B, if you're just happy to pass this class, hey, just give me the C and I'm fine. And let me never talk about public speaking. Right on. I'm not here to decide what's most important in your life. I'm not here to decide what is going to grab or your attention, what's going to keep your attention. You should have some degree. All audience should have some degree of self-motivation to be where they are. I'm going to say that again. All audiences should have some degree of self-motivation to be where they are. Patty, you like that one. Can you write it down as a Kluby snack before I forget it?
Sure.
Thank you so much. I'll say it again. All audiences. Man, why not? Let's create a banner. It's the last call here. Kluby snack. All audiences should, what did I say? Should have some
degree of motivation.
Some degree of motivation to be where they are.
Yeah.
And so I like that so much. I'm just going to put the Kluby snack. All audiences, every member of an audience, every audience as a collective, and every member of an audience should have some degree. And by the way, that's the thing. I'm sorry. It's better. I got to correct my own Kluby snack now. And I'll do that. It's my Kluby snack. I can correct it if I want to. But this is the thing, right? Even when I'm making mistakes, or even when I'm not 100% fluid, it's more attention getting, isn't it? So
it's more natural.
Yeah, I should be. Why isn't it letting? Oh, now it'll let me edit. Watch this. This is a big improvement. Vong, this goes back to, I think it goes back to your, how much long do I have before they lose attention? I think it goes back to that question and so many things. Tell me when you guys see the improvement. Are you guys ready? Watch. All audiences should have some degree of self-motivation to be where they are.
Yeah.
So now what I need to do, Vong, and I'll teach this 17 weeks from now, 18 weeks from now, 19. Okay. Actually, by the time we get to the fifth step, it's not only going to be 17 weeks from now, but plus 5, 22 weeks. Vong, you don't want to wait 22 weeks. I'm going to give you a hint now. Ready?
You should check your email. I emailed you like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, I'm checking my email. I'm doing banners and I'm keeping attention and I'm, anyway. Kluby snacks, and I'll check my email. You'll get the 8-step you'll get the PDF, I promise. But here's the deal. I say I want to make everybody think there's a whole team standing by waiting for your email. Our team will send you the PDF, right? I'm a solopreneur. Here we go. There's 5 things that I always want to do in every introduction to every speech. There's 5 things. One of them is to give everybody, or as much of my audience, a reason to listen. Hey, some of you want to pay attention because of this. Others of you may be here for that. Finally, some of you may be here. And then if there's any other reason you're here that I'm not aware of yet, please continue to pay attention. I promise. You know what I'm saying? So you want to highlight that. This Kluby snack is something that I want to hold up a mirror early on in my speech. I want to let the audience know that I've spent time imagining why you're here, what you could possibly get out of it. And if I communicate that up front in my speech, now you're going to lean forward and sit on the edge of your seat, listening for, like, oh, Jeff knows why I'm here. So he's going to say something that's going to help me out. So I'm waiting for it. And then I can go back to that as an anchor throughout my speech. So remember in the beginning of my speech, I said some of you are here because you want to be a better agent, and others of you are here because you're already a successful agent, but you want to figure out how to be a broker. And some of you brokers that are here want to figure out how to recruit better agents. Whatever reason you're here, soft skills make all of you stronger. So for my agents in the room, for my brokers in the room, do you understand? I establish an identity with reason to listen. You got it? And these are some of these techniques, some of these subtleties that you develop along the way. But when my thoughts are organized, I know the space. It's like a guitar player. You play the rhythm, you get to the solo, you riff off of the basic song. But you can go this way, you can go that way, but it always comes back. So we're talking about, when we go back to the tips that we've covered already, when Sue did the overview of the tips that we've covered so far in playing the integrity game, when we talk about, well, what is our purpose for being a speaker in the first place? Okay. But then gifts. Why does somebody want to hire me as a speaker and somebody else? Why does somebody want to hire me as a speaker coach, a speaker mentor, a speaker trainer, a speech writer instead of anybody else they could hire? Why does somebody want that? Okay, but then what is the audience? We have to know the biographical answers. What is the audience going to get out of this? And the more time we really spend being biographical, we have to command and own our autobiographical motives. We have to. We're lying if we don't. But we want to integrate autobiographical with biographical. And the more time I spend knowing exactly what any and everybody in my audience might, the better chance, whether it's 1 second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, the better chance I have of keeping their attention. You with me on that? So ding, ding, ding. Let's ring the bell. We're 5 minutes over scheduled time. But last call for comments, questions, jokes, riddles, haikus, limericks. We're finishing up tip number 5, strategies, tactics, and resources. We are here in Get a Clue in 52 for speakers with Sue Mathieson, my co-author, and Patty Blakesley is here, the inner business coach who wrote. And just, I love how consistently you're always getting us this back cover copy that describes the book. So thank you, Patty, the inner business coach. I'm always happy to give you that credit where it is deserved. But Sue, I turn it over to you first. Anything from you last call? Or actually, let's go Patty, Vaughn, or Vaughn and Patty first before you and I close this up.
Yeah.
Last call.
I just want to thank you for, bringing the integrity game into this concept of speaking. It's really very interesting to watch you guys integrate everything.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. If it's you're really grateful, that means that we're doing somewhat of an okay job doing it. Right. And because, just being vulnerable and transparent, taking a chance, right? Because the integrity game is its own book, right? It's its own book, its own brand. This is the Get a Clue brand, but we're integrating this personal professional growth methodology, this framework for personal professional growth, and we're integrating it into this project. And it's just, I'm glad that it's coming together and it's coming through in a way that creates your gratitude, Patty, because, I'm nervous about it, right? I've never done this before, but I'm loving to see how the integrity game lives and breathes in other areas, other endeavors. I like to see myself as a content creating machine, which includes repurposing, repositioning, integrating content, taking content out of one context, repurposing it, repositioning it in another context so it lives and breathes and serves a brand new piece of value in a new way or strengthens its original value, etc. So I really, really value that comment, Patty. Thank you very much. Sue, do you want to say anything to Patty before we kick it over to Vaughn?
I just want to, I appreciate your comments, and it certainly, I guess, adds to what my experience has been of applying the integrity game to so many different areas and the value that it has. Yeah. So, Vaughn, any comments from you?
Super. Vaughn, last call for Vaughn. What do you got?
Just want to say Happy New Year's. Haven't seen y'all in a while. And been a busy month, but I'll try to make it on more often. Thank you for sharing and spending your Fridays sharing valuable knowledge.
Back to dad jokes and silliness and vulnerability and joviality. Happy Clue year right back at you. And it's like funny. It's like, dude, we're in February already. Can you believe that? Like, I don't think we're allowed to say Happy New Year anymore after February 1st, but in this case, we'll allow it. It's good to see you, Vaughn. We really appreciate you being here. And for those of you that are out there that chime in and we see an eyeball every now and then, it's harmless. It's fun. It's jovial. It's Friday. There's no pressure. If you come on board, you don't have to talk, but you can keep on typing comments or what have you. But the more the merrier, of course. And I really appreciate, Patty, your consistency in supporting us the way that you do. And Vaughn, it's great to see you back on here. And I know that you're going to be on several more weeks throughout the year when your schedule allows, because you're a busy dude, man, and you're making it happen. So, Sue, I kick it back to you now for last call.
Yeah, same. I just really appreciate Patty and Vaughn being with us in this conversation. It adds another dimension and takes the dialogue that Jeff, you and I had started out with when we wrote the book, to adds more depth to it. It helps us to, I guess, validate almost where we started out. And is that helpful? Is that meaningful? How can we actually maybe even develop that further into something that's really tangible for people that are listening or reading the book?
Including the relief of validation that Patty is grateful that we've integrated the integrity game. Like, oh, what a relief. Oh, thank God. We're all right. We're because I think we could do a better job. It's so interesting. I don't know if you guys see it, but as I cruise through all these tip readings, I'm trying to do the best job I can and make it as attention gaining and dynamic and valuable as possible. But there is a percentage of my brain that's going, all right, you can do this better. You can do that better. How can you improve it, etc. So Patty, I mean, I hope you don't take it lightly that I really appreciate that expression of gratitude that the integrity game is living and breathing in this project. And Sue, the way that you've proven how impactful the integrity game is to giving you that confidence, that solidarity, that willingness to take action. You're like when I put you up here as your name's there, co-author and certified integrity game coach. I mean, I could squeeze your arm and the integrity game would come out of your ears. And so I can't thank you enough for being one of the early adopters that are helping me establish proof of concept on this whole integrity game thing that I'm doing. We want to make accountability non-threatening. So if you want to be a good speaker, what can you be held accountable to? Right? What does that look like? And you got to answer let's play the integrity game and let's get a solid concrete foundation to build on. So having said all of that, let me just go ahead and tell you guys, I'm Jeff Klubeck. I'm founder and author of the Integrity Game and founder of Get A Klu, and I'm the lead author on the Get A Klu in 52 series. But of the 4 of them, I've had 2 co-authors. So if you've got a subject matter expertise, if you've got a book inside of you, and you think somebody like me can help you bring your tips, your message, your story out into the world, then contact me on the side and let's talk about the possibilities for a book project for you. And for now, let me just give my utmost thanks to my co-author for this project, Sue Mathieson, all the way down under. We're international. It's so much fun. And thanks again also for what you said at the beginning, the outset, that we're not just giving tips that are good for speakers and non-speakers alike. We're not just advancing our career using public speaking or advancing our career as a speaker. We are demonstrating, trying to capture and show everyone the power, the graceful, the lovely power of the mentor-mentee relationship, the coach-coachee. Somebody with a thirst for learning that can trust a trusted advisor and bring out and capture rich dialogues that end up being repurposed as content that hopefully make a difference for others in this world. So hopefully we're capturing the power, the lovely power of the mentor-mentee relationship. And we invite you guys to get 2 complimentary coaching sessions with us, get the free PDF, anything that we offer free. If you want to dip your toes in the water, get closer to knowing what would working with us, Integrity Game certified coaches, Get A Klu certified, whatever, what would working with us be like? What would being in this mentor-mentee relationship be like? But learn from Sue and come check us out if you get the chance. But I don't have anything else to say unless anybody else does. Ready to wrap up this installment of Get A Klu in 52 for speakers. Tip number 5, it was strategies, tactics, and resources. Thank you all for being on board. Happy Friday.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
See you next week, everyone. Thank you.